The fluorescent lights of the upscale restaurant cast a warm glow over white tablecloths and crystal glasses, but Sarah Mitchell couldn't feel their warmth. She sat rigid in her chair, her 5-year-old daughter Emma pressed against her side, both of them trying to become invisible. This wasn't their world, not anymore. The prices on the menu had made Sarah's stomach drop. But they'd been caught in a rainstorm, and Emma's lips had turned blue from the cold. Just soup, Sarah had told herself. Just enough to warm her baby up before they caught the bus to the shelter. Now, as wealthy diners laughed and clinked glasses around them, Sarah felt the weight of every stare, real or imagined. Her second-hand coat dripped onto the expensive floor. Emma's shoes, too small now, but all they had, squeaked with water. Sarah had already decided they would leave the moment Emma finished her crackers. They couldn't afford to be here, not really. Not in any way that mattered. But then Emma stopped chewing. Her daughter's wide brown eyes had fixed on something across the room, and Sarah's heart sank as she followed her gaze. The man at the corner table was impossibly out of place in his own right. Not because he didn't belong, but because he belonged too much. His tailored suit probably cost more than Sarah had earned in 6 months at her old job. 3 phones lay beside his plate, all buzzing intermittently. He was cutting into a perfectly cooked steak, surrounded by sides that looked like they'd been photographed for a magazine. Emma wasn't looking at him, though. She was staring at his plate with an intensity that made Sarah want to disappear into the floor. "Emma, honey, look at Mommy," Sarah whispered, her cheeks burning. But Emma couldn't tear her eyes away from the food. Real food. Hot food, the kind they hadn't seen in weeks. Sarah reached for her purse with trembling fingers. They needed to leave. Now. Before anyone noticed. Before the humiliation became complete. Before... "Excuse me." The voice was deep, closer than expected. Sarah looked up to find the billionaire standing beside their table, and her breath caught. Up close, he was younger than she'd thought, maybe 40, with gray threading through dark hair and eyes that were sharp but not unkind. His name tag from some conference still clung to his jacket. Marcus Chen. Chen Industries. "I'm so sorry," Sarah stammered, pulling Emma closer. "We were just leaving." She didn't mean to stare. "How old is she?" Marcus asked, and something in his tone made Sarah pause. It wasn't the condescending curiosity she'd braced for. It was something else entirely. 5, Sarah managed. Marcus nodded slowly, then did something that made the entire restaurant seem to stop. He knelt down, bringing himself to Emma's eye level. "Hi there. I'm Marcus. What's your name?" Emma looked at her mother for permission. Sarah, too shocked to speak, gave a tiny nod. "Emma," her daughter whispered. "That's a beautiful name." Marcus smiled. But Sarah saw something flicker across his face, a shadow of old pain. "Emma, I noticed you looking at my dinner. Are you hungry?" The question was so direct, so without pretense, that Sarah felt tears spring to her eyes. Emma nodded just once. Marcus stood and turned to Sarah, and she braced for the inevitable pity, the charitable condescension she'd encountered at food banks and shelters. Instead, his voice was steady and respectful. "Ma'am, I'd like to order dinner for you and your daughter. Would that be all right?" "We can't," Sarah started, but her voice broke. "We can't accept that." "Thank you, but—" "My daughter's name was Lily," Marcus said quietly, and the restaurant noise seemed to fade away. "She would have been 7 this year." Sarah's protest died on her lips. Marcus continued, his eyes distant. 3 years ago, my wife and I were going through a divorce. I was working constantly, building my company, thinking that success would fix everything. I missed Lily's recital because of a meeting. I missed her birthday because of a conference." He paused, and Sarah saw his jaw tighten. "I missed the signs that my wife was struggling, that she needed help. One night she fell asleep at the wheel with Lily in the car." "Oh, God," Sarah breathed. "They said Lily died instantly. My wife survived but couldn't forgive herself. She's in a facility now, getting the help she should have had all along." Marcus looked back at Emma, and his expression softened. Lily had the same way of looking at things, like she was trying to understand the whole world at once. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. Around them, other diners had begun to notice, but she couldn't bring herself to care anymore. "So please," Marcus said, meeting Sarah's eyes, "let me do this." Not as charity, but as a chance to honor what I lost. To see a little girl smile over a good meal one more time. 20 minutes later, the table in front of Sarah and Emma was covered with food. Not just soup, real food. Chicken fingers for Emma, pasta for Sarah, fresh bread, salad, and a slice of chocolate cake that made Emma gasp with delight. Marcus had returned to his table but kept glancing over, a bittersweet smile on his face each time Emma took an enthusiastic bite. Sarah watched her daughter eat, really eat, for the first time in weeks, and felt something crack open in her chest. They'd been homeless for 2 months, ever since her landlord sold the building and she couldn't find anything else she could afford on her waitressing salary. She'd been fired when she missed too many shifts looking for shelter space. Every day had been about survival, about keeping Emma safe and fed and hopeful. Every day, Sarah had felt herself disappearing a little more, becoming invisible. But Marcus had seen them. Really seen them. As Emma finished her cake, Marcus approached again, this time with the restaurant manager. "Sarah," he said. He'd learned her name when the waiter took their order. "I've been thinking. Chen Industries has a program for single parents. We provide job training, childcare assistance, and transitional housing. Would you be interested in learning more?" Sarah couldn't speak. She nodded, tears flowing freely now. "Good." Marcus pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "This is my direct line. Call tomorrow and we'll set everything up. The program director's name is Janet. She's excellent." "But Sarah?" He waited until she met his eyes. "You're not accepting charity. You're accepting a hand up, and there's no shame in that. I just wish someone had extended the same to my family when we needed it." As they prepared to leave, Emma tugged on Marcus's sleeve. When he crouched down again, she threw her small arms around his neck. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're a nice man." Marcus closed his eyes, and Sarah saw tears slip down his cheeks. He hugged Emma back gently, carefully, as if she were made of glass. "Thank you, Emma. You remind me why kindness matters." That night, in their shelter cot, Emma fell asleep with a full belly for the first time in memory. Sarah lay awake, holding Marcus's business card. Feeling hope flicker to life again, she thought about how close they'd come to leaving, to slipping out quietly into the rain. How one moment of being seen, really seen, had changed everything. 3 months later, Sarah started her new job at Chen Industries. She and Emma moved into a small apartment, through the company's housing program. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. More importantly, Sarah had found her footing again, her sense of purpose and dignity restored. And once a month, Marcus would take them to dinner, always asking permission first, always treating them with respect. He'd watch Emma chatter about school and friends, and sometimes Sarah would catch that bittersweet smile on his face, the one that said he was remembering another little girl in another time. Kindness, Sarah learned, wasn't about grand gestures or changing the world. It was about noticing, about seeing the people others looked past, about remembering that everyone carried invisible burdens. And sometimes the smallest act of humanity could change everything. Emma never forgot the man who noticed her staring at his plate, and Marcus never forgot the little girl who reminded him why success meant nothing if it came at the cost of compassion. They had saved each other, in the way that broken people sometimes do, by simply choosing to see, to care, to reach across the divide that separates us all, and offer a hand,